Hi, Shatota, the Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff here, and you are listening to Counted, how you say, Counted Out with Mike and Tyler. You better tune in or I come after you, Shatota.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Seal of Approved Counted Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and today we are joined by the one and only Mojito Mike, because it's summer's over and I refuse to call you Hard Mike anymore. And a little bit of big news in the wrestling world here with Impact Wrestling switching back to TNA Wrestling in the new year. So we have to bring in our Impact/TNA guy. We got Adam Contant here. Adam, what's going on, brother?
Not much. Just got back from an incredible weekend with Rock Solid Wrestling in Sudbury. Had a great crowd, 400 plus fans there. We crowned a King of Timmins in King Daddy, and Scotty the Body retained his championship over Tornado in a no holds barred match. That being said, of course, outside of Timmins in the world of independent wrestling, Bound for Glory, Impact Wrestling was the talk of the town, and I'm excited to talk about that.
I'm confused about something for a second here. Where was this show?
Timmins, Ontario.
Okay, you said Sudbury. Okay.
Did I say Sudbury?
You did. I'm like, you crowned a King of Timmins in Sudbury? That's ballsy, man. That's
how hardcore we go. We crown kings for other cities when we go there. That's how ballsy we are.
Yeah, there you go.
So we got a lot to talk about this week. Adam has been very generous to put together a list. Kind of go off what Mike was talking about last week. Mike was going to do a list regarding the Icon.
No. You can't even do it. The mic doesn't. I don't know if you hit this register like a fucking dog whistle or something like that, but every time you try to do it, the mic won't pick it up.
Can I try it on mine and see if it works?
Yeah.
It's Sting. Did that work?
We're going to shift the list a little bit, and we're going to do the top 7 TNA matches of the man they call Sting, which I'm very excited to get into there. But let's kind of get right into the big topic here. And one of the main reasons why we wanted to invite Adam on this week, not just because of the news, but we love Adam as well. But the big news, Impact Wrestling will be reverting back to the TNA banner. Everything is switching up TNA, starting with the Hard to Kill pay-per-view in January. We're going to have new championship belt designs. The lineage stays the same. Scott D'Amore came out today and said we will not be receiving the return of the 6-sided ring, which I'm all for.
I have something to say about that, but yeah, absolutely.
But let's start with you, Mike. You're the one who texted me the video. Yeah, let's start with the video package before we get into all the breakdown of it. I know you love this.
Take away my feelings about the actual change. I'll get that in a minute. If we're just going to talk about the way they presented this to us, holy shit, man. They did it in only a way that Impact Wrestling can do it. This video, when I first started watching it and I looked ahead and I saw it was 4 minutes long, I'm like, 4 fucking minutes, Scotty? Like, what are you doing here? But they kept me for 4 minutes. The end of it was fucking tremendous. Just the passion that the guys put into this video was tremendous. This is honestly probably tied with my favorite cinematic promo package that a wrestling company has done in the last 10 years. Tied only with, I don't know if you guys remember the package that NWA put out a few years ago with John Goodman. Yes, you have seen it because I've made you watch it, Tyler. But John Goodman did a narration over the lineage of the NWA a couple years ago. And yeah, I know you're a cool dog. You don't watch TNA. Shut your fucking.
Well, I don't watch NWA. But
God, I hate you so much right now.
Well, I don't watch wrestling, apparently, right?
Yeah, you don't watch wrestling.
I don't remember said video package.
anyways, that was my favorite video package in a very, very long time, for a very, very long time, until this weekend. And this video came out. It was more acted than it was a video package. It wasn't like that one before. It was just clips of people. This was scripted out. This was cool because it showed the unity of heels and faces coming together for one purpose and one goal of bringing back something that they all cared about, and that was the TNA brand.
Yeah.
I thought it was very, very well done. What do you guys think?
I haven't seen such unity between heels and faces since the wrestling album.
I like that.
All I'm going to say is that if we get the Land of 1,000 Dances at Hard to Kill, pay-per-view of the year immediately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the package was absolutely fantastic. They made it feel important. They made it feel like a big deal, and they had to. Like, this announcement closed out the show. You talk about your biggest event of the year with maybe one of the most anticipated main events for the company that year, and they decided, you know what, this announcement is more important than that. It really had to be a home run. And I think the fact that they did close the show with that tells you that they knew they did have a home run on their hands. They absolutely did. They did a great job with it. It built a lot of anticipation, and I think something that big is a big announcement. Now, I know that there are people that were probably disappointed that it wasn't a CM Punk announcement, because I know those rumors were running wild all weekend long.
Yeah.
But I mean, those people, I think, you're never going to please them. But I'll tell you, as an Impact fan, I would say that it's definitely a announcement that was worthy of, closing the biggest show of the year. That's a huge announcement, and they did well.
Absolutely. I also enjoyed the video package. This is something that TNA's kind of been playing around with. We've seen they've done these, reunion shows and talked about it. It's gotten a lot of hype about, that TNA brand, the nostalgia. I do think, and this is my opinion, and I'd love to hear your guys' thought on it. I think right now it's a good move because it's got people talking about the company. It's got that buzz going right now, which is something that Impact Wrestling, they need that. You know what I mean? Like we all know, and anyone who listens to the show knows that I think all three of us agree that Impact Wrestling puts on the best wrestling product out of all of the companies, right? Is that fair to say? I think I can speak for all of us here. But for whatever,
show, for sure.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it's just not gaining that traction outside of their core base. Now their numbers are growing, their attendance is growing, but it's like it's missing that to get it to that next level. People are talking about it now. In my opinion, though, I think they need to do something big on top of this. Well, whether it's a big signing, like a Will Ospreay, if they can get Punk. I don't think so. I think Punk is all but WWE bound, in my opinion. But if they can get a big name like that on top of this announcement and really drive that, and put on their usual great product at Hard to Kill with something big on top of it, I think it could be the step in the right direction that company needs.
I'm actually going to step in and disagree with you on this one. I don't necessarily think that that's what is needed at this time for Impact Wrestling / TNA. I think that this is going to be a fairly cosmetic change. It's more so about tickling a nostalgia bone. And I think it's about getting the brand recognition that they have internationally, which, as we've seen over the last year, has been a big part of their strategy of expansion. I know that they're a Canadian-based company, but moving into Canada, into Australia, into the UK coming up, these are all international markets. And I've read since Saturday that a big part of the reason that they decided to change the brand is because internationally, TNA still has a lot of value as a name and as a brand. In terms of needing to make a big move right now, I see where you're coming from, but my personal opinion and take is that the clock isn't broke. Don't fix it. These guys are putting on the best wrestling show in North America right now. And if you're going to expand globally and you're going to get people coming back to the brand because they go, TNA, I used to watch that. They're still around. they're still doing stuff. Well, maybe let's see what they're doing now. You know, it's nice to have guys like a Will Ospreay and whatnot, but it's even better for them to say, we don't need Will Ospreay. We don't need CM Punk. We don't need any big bells and whistles. We got Mike Bailey. We got Josh Alexander. We got Alex Shelley. We've got the Knockouts. We've got the best women's division in the entire wrestling world. You know, I think this is the time to utilize the branding to get old eyes back on the product, or even new eyes that were like, oh, I heard my older brothers or my dads talk about TNA, and now what are they doing now? And show them what they've been doing for the last 5-6 years or so. So I understand and I respect the perspective of like, hey, people are going to be talking about it. Let's do something big. But for me, I think the best thing they can do with this rebranding is to show those people who have become lapsed fans that we're not LOL TNA anymore. Now we're this is awesome TNA. That's my opinion on it.
I see what you're saying, and Mike, I want to hear your take on it. You're kind of the middleman here. We will hear your opinion.
I'm really, you couldn't have said it better by saying that word middleman. I'm very, very in the middle between the both of you. You both made points that I strongly agree with. With you, Tyler, I'm not going to go into like I agree with Adam. They don't need a big signing, but I do agree with you that it could help grease the wheels. You know what I mean? I think they do need something just a little else to put on top of Hard to Kill to show, hey, it's not just a name change. Look what we're doing. They need something. It doesn't have to be a signing, but they need some little pepper on there to show. A good start is that tremendous venue that they booked down in Nevada. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of this venue. It's fucking gorgeous. I can't wait to see this in there. And this side rant, Tony Khan, take every fucking page you can in the book of Scott D'Amore and Impact Wrestling, because they're teaching you right now how to make a small venue look like a fucking megastar. You don't need to put your show in a massive fucking in the ACC when you can put it in a smaller venue. And Scott's showing you that. If I'm watching TNA over AEW, which one looks like it has the hottest crowd right now? You know what I mean? That fucking crowd in Chicago was off the hook. And it was because they know how to shoot those crowds. They know their product and they know the venues they need to run, and they're running the proper venues. Tony can really learn something from that.
I agree and disagree a little bit with that statement. I do think Tony needs to start running.
Did you not say this exact same thing just last week?
I do think that Tony needs to start running smaller venues in general. But when you watch AEW on TV, they do a very good job of making it look like the arena is full. When you see pictures online,
did you see that Sting segment?
That was okay. A picture online, though, shot facing the hard camera.
But even on TV, it didn't look. Anyways, that's just me.
That's
not. Yes.
If I may chime in on this, I would also like to point out the fact that Scott D'Amore and his team know a thing or two about how to make smaller venues look impressive, because he's been doing it for upwards of 20 years. Even when we're running independent shows, we sometimes forget that AEW, despite its large success in its infancy, is still in its infancy. It's only been around since 2019. So it's literally been here for less than 10 years, whereas, TNA Impact Wrestling over 20. So they have a little bit more experience with that. And let's not also forget that money also dictates action in this case. When you can afford to just buy out a major arena and take the risk, you do it just to see if you can, especially when we think about the history of AEW and the success they'd had previously with taking chances on larger venues and selling them out and doing a good job. Whereas TNA Impact Wrestling went from being able to sell out larger venues and whatnot, and having to slowly scale those back because of a lack of funding and whatnot. But this is also a company that started their most successful days packing a television studio on the lot of an amusement park. So
exactly,
a lot of it comes down to the experience as well, in terms of, where did you come from? TNA has built themselves from the ground up. AEW started with a bankroll right at the top. And, when you're as popular as you are right out the gate, you're going to have those growing pains on the national stage. You're going
100%.
to have those, you're going to make those mistakes in a very public way. Your point is taken, and it's a good one, Mike. But I'll say Tony Khan does have a lot to learn, but I'll also say it makes sense why he's still learning those lessons. So, and I hope he does. Don't get me wrong. I want success for all wrestling companies.
Of course.
I want it for TNA a little bit more.
The last point I just wanted to make there before we circle on the next topic here is I kind of want to go back to the original point there. I agree with a lot of what Adam and Mike, both of you, have said. The reason why, though, I'm a little bit more adamant about them maybe debuting a big talent on this show is because I think that if there are more eyes watching this particular show, let's say, and they do debut a big name, that I feel like it's going to make people look at them on that level of an AEW. Like, not that Punk will debut, but like, holy shit, Impact or TNA signed CM Punk, or they signed Will Ospreay. I just think it gives them that credibility with the big dogs as well. That's kind of where I'm looking at it as that point.
My thing is this. It's I get what you're saying. My only question, and it's not a counterpoint to it, it's just more of an additional question, follow-up question, if you will, which is there a name out there that could be exclusive to Impact that would cause a lot of noise? And I'm only saying that because, like, Will Ospreay is unquestionably one of the most talented professional wrestlers in the world today, whether you're a fan of his style or not. But he's already been working for the company, and he's likely going to keep working with them right up until January. Is it really going to be that big of a deal if they say, hey, guess what? Now we signed with Impact. Okay, is he going to work other places? Yeah, probably. All right. Well,
and
that's
like
not
a
to say
good,
anything
like,
against
sounding
and that's
thing,
not anything to say against Impact. It's just the way the wrestling landscape is now.
100%. But it's like to have Will Ospreay choose Impact, like, on paper, I just think that adds a little extra push in the right direction.
It definitely would send a message to some of those hardcore fans who may have fallen off, that have been like, oh, I've only watched New Japan, or I've only watched AEW. Will Ospreay, he signed with Impact Wrestling? Oh, okay, that's an interesting choice. Why did he do that? Maybe I'll go watch them and check that out. So,
like, if they did sign
I do
Ospreay,
see what you mean by that.
like, he's no doubt going to be the hottest free agent in wrestling come January. Well, like you said, whether you like him or not, the guy is said he's doing some of his best work, and people are talking about him. And there is going to be a battle for him. WWE showing interest. AEW will want to sign him. And if he just happens to be like, I choose Impact, I think people are going to be like, holy shit, like, what's Impact doing that Will Ospreay chose them?
I think that if they make a big deal out of it, then it could work to their advantage for sure.
And that's going to be, and I trust Scott D'Amore to do, to whatever they decide to do. Like, I have full trust in Scott D'Amore. I really do. I'm just really excited for them, and I just really hope that more people start watching Impact.
My initial reaction to this was not a positive one right away. Before I watched the video, because I saw the video. I did not see the video at the end of the package. I saw the video because while I was at work, it popped up on my news feed, and I said, "What the fuck is this?" And it says TNA is back in the caption.
I got it spoiled by Ross Foreman when we got our email, the press blast.
That's right. I
was like, what?
So my initial reaction before watching the video was not a positive one. My issue is, and this is my issue, this is in this box alone, I never liked the name TNA. I didn't like it in 2002. I don't like it now. I was ecstatic. I was one of the only people, apparently, that was ecstatic when Anthem took over and decided to drop the TNA name and go to just Impact. I thought it made them look more professional, less of a joke. TNA, I always felt, was like a parody of such a stupid name. And even when they were doing some of the wrestling that I really liked, I'll be honest, I took a big break with TNA between the years of 2010 and 2000, probably 15, but or whatever the fucking Hogan Bischoff bullshit years were. I did not watch any of that shit. But before that, the Asylum years, I was loving that shit. I loved the product. I hated the name. Hated the name. To me, that was like when Ed Ferreira came out in one of the original episodes, I was like, oh, this makes sense. A fucking, Ed Ferreira looking like he just jumped out that fucking Spring Breakers movie 15 years before Spring Breakers. And then he's in a company called TNA. Of course he is. It was a fucking joke to me right away. So when they changed the Impact a few years ago, I was ecstatic. So when I found out they were going to go back to TNA, my first thought was, fuck, why? Just because you don't know what else to do? Like, what are you guys doing? But when I watched that video, this is the power of production, the power of what you can do with script writing and your talent, because they sold me, man. They told me, they made me want this. They made me, like, now I'm excited. The TNA is coming back in January. I hate TNA. I hate that title. I hate that name. I hate that brand. I'm excited for fucking Hard to Kill to be under this new brand, because what are they going to do with it? Because this is not, AJ Styles and that crew anymore. This is not Ken Shamrock. This is not, sure, Devon's there, but this is not, or I mean, Bully Ray's there, but this is not Team 3D back in the day. This is not Kevin Nash. This is not Hulk Hogan. This is Josh Alexander and Speedball Mike Bailey and Moose and Scott D'Amore in the place that he belongs. This is the Impact that I fell in love with just under the old banner. I'm excited what our crew, the crew that we fell in love with, can do with the original banner.
I went on the same path, but I took a different journey to get there. I was also not on board at first, similarly because, the history of TNA as a silly name for a brand. And primarily my objection was that Impact had spent the last 6 years rebuilding let's be honest, a tarnished brand, a brand that had really taken its lumps. And Scott D'Amore and Don Callis and that Anthem team worked so hard to reestablish themselves as a must-see brand for wrestling fans. And my knee-jerk reaction was that it was a bad idea to potentially throw away that goodwill and that hard work by rebranding it to something that isn't always, looked back fondly upon within the wrestling community. Now, my stance has softened on that change, not because of the video package, although the video package was very well done, but after reading some interviews with Scott D'Amore, in which he talked about the reasoning behind the rebranding, primarily because in international markets, which, as we know, is a stronghold for Impact Wrestling, can still use the TNA name internally. It's still part of the branding overseas. And yeah, granted, there's still a lot of nostalgia for it amongst both fans and amongst members of the Impact team. So look, as long as it's treated with love and care, and they're not going to be making any major plans to the way that they do business, I think it's a calculated risk, and it's worth the chance that they're going to take, because the international market, as we've seen in this last year, has been a huge part of their growth. And it's been a positive part of their growth this year. Every tour that they've done internationally so far has been a huge success for them. So if you're going to continue to expand like that, why not use the branding that is most popular with fans there? If you're going to become a worldwide brand, perhaps it is easier to make that change in the West and continue to be popular everywhere else under a different name. So I've softened my take on that now. I've now come over to the other side. It's not a big deal anymore, and I understand the logic behind it now. So same path, wasn't on board with it at first, have come around to it, but different journey to get there.
I actually was on board from the get-go. I thought it was good because I think enough time has passed where the stink of the Hogan era and the ridiculousness that came with all of that is gone. The nostalgia is there. That's the strongest thing, is nostalgia for any wrestling fan. We all love a good old nostalgia run. But you said something a little bit before, Adam, about if the watch isn't broke, don't fix it. But I think up until 2 years ago, the watch was still broken. I don't think they had fully, maybe 3 years ago. Like,
let's give it 3 or 4, but
you get the drift I'm going on here. Like, for us as a more hardcore wrestling fan, we found Impact, we've appreciated Impact. We think Impact is the best, but when you take a look at the bigger scale of the wrestling landscape, Impact, they weren't really drawing a lot of attention to themselves, which is unfortunate. I think that the TNA name is something that people click with. A lot of people still do call Impact TNA, like the more casual fan, right? That's not watching Impact every week.
Apparently, according to Scott D'Amore, they still call it that internally in the office on a regular basis.
100%, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if enough time has passed where we wash that Hogan stink off, I think embrace into the history. And I like the way that Scott's doing it. We're going to take our history and make it our future. And I think that's great. New set design is being talked about. New championship belts are being talked about. I think there's a right way to combine the two together to make this very successful.
I agree with you 100%, except for one small detail. I don't like their I don't know if you want to call it a catchphrase or a motto right now. The weird back, I think is the wrong choice to go. You didn't leave you didn't leave anywhere. You didn't go anywhere. You have been a tremendous product for several years.
But to a lot of people, they did leave.
I know, but they didn't. And don't cater to the people who think you did. Prove to them that you didn't. I don't like the weird back. I think I don't like
that tag either. But you do want to cater to the people that left because you want them back.
Fuck that! Cater to the people that have been fucking loyal to you for the last several years.
You need to expand them, though. We're always going to be
expand. Here. Expand 100%. But you don't. Do your thing. That's why they've been so successful in their actual product. Take away the finances and the other issues, because they've just been doing them. They're not sucking the dicks of the people that aren't watching, and I liked that about them. I don't know. That's just my thing. But it does. I get you. I get what you're saying. It's a business move. It's a business move. You want to bring in this crowd that used to watch. I get that. Nostalgia is. You said it yourself. Nostalgia is very strong in wrestling. Always has been and always will be. It's that tagline. I just take that tagline out. Put a new tagline in there. The weird back doesn't sell me. I don't like that at all.
I'm indifferent to it.
Now, one last thing I just want to mention, because you did bring up signings and stuff like that. If we're talking signings, there's one signing that I wish could be put in place just for my own personal, because he should be there for this. Me talking as a fan, I hope they go back to the table with Sami Callihan. I don't know exactly like if it was all financial or if it was other things, but if it's just financial, dig deep. You got the money for PCO, fucking dig deep, get the money for Sami. I think Sami being part of this rebrand could be really, really big for both parties.
I think that I agree with you, but I agree with you in 2 to 3 years.
Really? Okay.
I do. And I am a big Sami Callihan fan. and I love everything that he's done in TNA, but he has done everything in TNA. And I think that much like a couple that falls out of love, they need maybe a little bit of time apart to realize what they're missing from one another. Sammy has made no secrets that he's very, very passionate about Revolver Wrestling, and he really wants to dedicate his time to that. And I think that's good for him. I think he getting a chance to wet those creative juices, as he seems to be that kind of performer that is very motivated by his ability to create and make art that fuels him. And I don't know that Impact was doing that for him anymore. It's always coming down to creative or cash, and they say cash, but I have to believe, and this is just my own personal opinion, that there's got to be some creative aspect to it there as well. Because again,
there almost always is. Yeah.
What else is there for him to do? And sometimes the best thing that a wrestler can do is step away for a little while, give us a chance to miss him, and then bring him back.
I
it's
agree.
So funny that it's so funny that we're even having this discussion, and I can't disagree with you. You both make a point there. It's just funny to me that we're even having this discussion because I would have never seen this coming just a few months ago. All three of us for the last year have been very fortunate enough to each interview several wrestlers from this company. Name one that seemed more passionate about Impact Wrestling and the project they're putting on than Sami Callihan did in his interview. Like Sammy was just like, he was putting over Impact he put over Impact more than you did put over Sami Callihan. You know what I mean? He was so passionate about the product for the entire interview that at this point I'm like, holy shit, out of all guys, I can't believe it's Sammy.
Has Sammy, now I don't know if I've missed something or if I'm just reading it the wrong way, but has Sammy said anything disparaging about Impact at all? Or no. Okay. I just think when you say creatively, I think it's more like what Adam's saying of he's done everything. There's not really any new programs for him to do right now. Up in, like, with the exception of that design storyline this year, I don't really remember the last big Sami Callihan angle. And I just think it's because he's done it all. Like you said, if you go away for a couple of years, maybe have a little run in AEW with Moxley or focus on his Rev Pro, like you said, and then you come back after a couple of years, there's going to be a fresh roster to work with. He's going to have that, like you said, separate time apart. I agree with that.
And I'd also just want to quickly go back to my married couple analogy, right? You may still love each other. Sometimes you just need some time apart. And I think that may be the case here, where Sammy may still love Impact and he may still have a lot of passion for Impact and what they do, but he may also recognize it's time for me to walk away. Before we went on the air, we talked about a booker that we all mutually know who was taking some time away from booking for a local company because he felt like things are getting stale and he needs to recharge his batteries. Who's to say that this isn't the exact same situation with a Sami Callihan, where he may have nothing but love and respect for that locker room, but he realizes, I got to step away. Look at a guy like Juice Robinson as a perfect example. That was a guy who in NXT in 2014 was on his way to the main roster, was doing great work, and he walked away and said, look, this place is great. I love it here, but I know for my own sanity, I got to go and do something different. I got to go test myself. And he did pretty okay for himself. The guy
Sammy did the same thing as well. He walked away from NXT as well, right?
But I don't think
not as happily. No, he was not. But he did walk away. He did walk away.
He did walk away though. But that's what I mean. Is I don't think it doesn't necessarily mean that the guy had to be unhappy with Impact or not love the place. He may love it, but for his own personal feelings, may be that I got to do something different.
Mm-hmm. You guys mentioned a name a little bit a couple minutes ago there. PCO resigning with Impact Wrestling. To me, this was a no-brainer. I think that Impact is the perfect place for PCO and that character and the creative outlet that he needs to make that character continue to be as amazing as it is. I can't picture like full-time PCO in like a WWE or an AEW. Like it just
Well,
fits so perfectly with Impact Wrestling.
I never was. I thought he was hanging it up, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the guy is, we say every time we go to a live show, we just sit there going, how much longer can he do what he's doing? Like this whole he's not human gimmick is
It's not a
going
gimmick.
to, it's not a gimmick and it's gonna kill the man. But then it's so funny because then you talk to him at the merch table half an hour later, and he's like, hey, it's like, oh, okay, maybe you can do this again next week. He's not fucking human. I when he didn't resign, or I don't know if he didn't resign or they didn't resign. I don't know how it was going just a few months ago. But when when it was said that the contract didn't get re-signed, I wasn't surprised. I said, okay, he might do some indie dates for another year, and then fade away and go and retire. So I was surprised that he resigned. No, I'm not surprised that he didn't go anywhere else. I'm just surprised that he's gonna go and keep full time for a while.
I mean, he was pretty outspoken about the contract negotiations with Impact, though. He was very upfront and said, I want more money and I want more creative freedom. And they didn't want to give it to me, so I'm leaving. Yeah. And then I guess they gave it to him because he's staying. And they did the great photo shoot with him and D'Amore signing the contract. I thought that was so good.
I thought that was really good. Yeah.
Good for everybody involved.
I agree.
I think that is actually a really great demonstration of how healthy the wrestling business is right now. You have performers who are confident enough to stand up and say, no, I feel like I deserve this. I feel like I'm worth this much. And you have a wrestling company that's, smaller. Let's be honest. Impact is not, the top dog company right now, but they're also doing well enough that they can go back and go, you know what? Yeah, you are worth it. You've done really well for this company, and we want to respect your loyalty and your value. Here you go. To me, I think that's the most positive story to come out of the whole weekend, because it shows again the health of the wrestling business.
Lack of ego. The lack of ego also. Like if I could see some wrestling promoters being upset if PCO came out and said that. And instead of having an ego about it and being like, oh yeah, well, that's what you think, we'll see you later. They're like, you know what? Let's relook at this again.
Yeah, it's I think it's a very positive story overall, and it's a great one. It's one of many positive stories to come out of the weekend for sure. I wanted to quickly ask if I may. I don't know if we're done talking about it, but I just wanted to ask: did you guys have a particular highlight from Bound for Glory that was like something that was like the best part of your weekend, like best part of the show, I should say, like one big highlight?
I've got a couple.
I have one, but yeah, me too. I have a couple as well. But if I had to bring it down to just one, that gauntlet match is one of my favorite things I've watched this year.
It was very good.
It was. I've always loved their gauntlet matches, but this might be my favorite one. I loved everything to do about it. Do with it. Matt Reinwald yelling the phrase "The juice is loose in Chicago" is one of my favorite fucking lines of the year. They had everybody knows me that, the Royal Rumble's my favorite pay-per-view of the year. So I love these styles of matches. I love these, these interval matches. And I love surprises. I love when I don't know who's going to come out next. So having Hoovy come out was tremendous. I marked out of my pants when Matt Cardona showed up. I did not expect him to be there. And I love the fact that he showed up 100%. He became my pick for a while. I had two picks through it. Neither were Jordan Grace, unfortunately. My picks were Eric Young or Matt Cardona.
I thought Eric Young as well. I mean, Jordan Grace. I had Jordan Grace right from the get-go, of course.
But right down to that finish, how they kind of they redid the finish from last year with Bully and Jordan, with Jordan going over. Everything was tremendous. This was my favorite match of the card. I can't say it was my favorite match. It was my favorite thing that I watched this like in the last several months. I loved it.
What I love about that though is just goes to show like the variety show that Impact Wrestling is, because like you went from having what people will say is one of the matches of the year between Ospreay and Bayley, which was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have something so fun like the Gauntlet, right? And then you have your high-flying tag team title match and your hardcore brutality and the Monster Ball.
That was my least favorite match of the night. Not because the match was bad, but because I'm a Rascal stan for life.
Tyler, during the Gauntlet, did you hear the pop that your boy Johnny Swinger got?
Oh, Johnny Swinger, the second coming of Shawn Michaels.
What a pop that man got. It was amazing. I loved it. I love me some Swinger, man. Those who want to hear more about Swinger, go into our archives and check out our CW Anderson show. CW tells some great shows about the Swing, man.
My highlight from the show, I'm not gonna veer away from the crowd. Will Ospreay and Speedball Mike Bailey, absolutely incredible. Your favorite call of the night might have been the Juice is Loose in Chicago. My favorite call of the night was when Speedball went to do his spinning elbow thing, and he ate an Ospreay elbow, and Raywall just went, Jesus! It was just like, I was like, you're right. That was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like that was fantastic.
Now, Tyler, I'm going to pull the curtain back. I know that the only match you didn't get around to watching yet was the main event.
Yes.
Do you know the main event? Like, do you know the finish? Do you know everything about it? Or
I know the story. I read.
Am I keeping spoilers?
I'm not. At this point, I'm not going to probably go back and watch it. I don't know if I'll have time to go back and watch it.
Do you know who won?
Yeah, I know the whole results and everything.
I didn't know. I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. I like it.
This was the only match that threw me because if I was a betting man, all my money was on Josh. It really was. I'm not upset that Shelley won, but they shocked me with this one. How did you feel at the end of that one?
I really liked it. I like that they're telling the story that Josh is still kind of working the kinks out from coming back from an injury. I like the fact that they've each won a match and will probably get a rubber match down the road, which I think would be a great time for Josh to win the title.
Now, from a money standpoint, if they weren't going to put the title on him, do you think maybe he would have been better served against Ospreay instead of on television?
Then who do you put against Shelley?
I don't know. I'm just, hey man, you yourself texted me the other day saying I wish it was Josh and Ospreay.
So because that's a marquee match to me. Like when I think Bound for Glory, like, and that's been kind of I've had this conversation with you many times over the years about Impact Wrestling. Sometimes I feel like their main event, while it's always fantastic, it's missing that little bit of star power, which is why I was a big fan last year when Bully Ray and Josh worked, because I thought it gave Josh a good rub and
the year before with Christian and Josh
a year before. Yeah, like Bound, every now and then they'll pull out those big ones, but like there's just sometimes that I'm just like, I know this match is going to be incredible, but it's just like
which it was, by the way.
Yeah, and but also, to play my own devil's advocate, Impact Wrestling is kind of pulling the trigger on some of these things now. I don't think a lot of people expected Alex Shelley to win the world championship in the first place, let alone to successfully be defending it. So now they're creating this, okay, maybe anybody can win the title on any given night. And that's kind of cool too.
Now, do you think now we're going in a direction? I'm going to put this to you first, Adam. Let's play some armchair booker here. If you're the one writing the stories, is this the way you go? Do we see Sabin cash in option C?
That would be a really interesting path to take, especially as we're heading into this TNA era. To me, it makes 100% sense to have TNA original Alex Shelley as your world champion when you're rebranding back to TNA, and it makes sense to have Chris Sabin in that spot as well. I do like the idea of that. Yeah, I don't see why not. Like, I mean, I think that's an interesting story to tell, and I mean,
especially knowing especially with us knowing that Jordan is using her gauntlet cash in for the Knockouts Championship. She made that very clear. She will not be going for any for the world title. So who's gunning for Alex right now? Very well could be Sabin.
I'm gonna go a different way, and I would like to see the trilogy match with Josh, and I would like to see Alex drop the title to Josh with the new era of TNA with Josh, like Alex as the old TNA, and then Josh beating him and being the new TNA. I like the symbolicness of that.
You think we get that at Hard to Kill then? It'll be the first TNA pay-per-view. So
I would personally, if I had the book, that's where I would go with it. But I do really like that Chris Sabin idea as well. I do really like that. So I'm gonna stick with Josh, but now you got me thinking about Sabin. But I'm gonna stick with Josh. I think that the right move is to put the belt back on Josh to usher in the new era.
The last topic about TNA that I'd like to bring up before you guys can say whatever else you'd like. You used a phrase earlier, Adam. You said we were talking about Sammy or PCO, and you said this is the best for all parties. The best for all involved, I believe, is what you said. Well, what's the best of all involved is a decision made that you alluded to earlier, Tyler, from the office, that the 6-sided ring will not be coming back. And I couldn't be more thrilled about this. And there's a lot of fans upset about this. A lot of fans want this back. And I got two things to say about that. Number one, we talked about how important nostalgia is, but nostalgia can only go so far, and you can't push the boundaries of it. We're getting the brand back. Don't push it by bringing you don't need to bring everything back and be like, look, we're the old thing again. You don't have to go all the way.
Technically, TNA ran with 4 sides for more years than they did with 6 sides. So if you're going to pull that card,
you're absolutely right. But then the second thing is all the people saying that we miss the 6-sided ring, we want the 6-sided ring. Let me tell you something right now. I'll take things that wrestlers have never said for 1,000, Alex. I guarantee you're not speaking for a single worker in Impact. Every person I have ever had the privilege of talking to that's worked for that company or that's worked down in AAA that has worked in that 6-sided ring fucking hates it. Nobody, like, that's the big blue cage of wrestling rings. People despise that fucking ring to work in it.
No,
they say it's
too
hard on their bodies.
Bring back the 6 sides and bring back unprotected chair shots while you're at it, right? No, I'm just kidding. I agree with you 100%.
When the fuck did Danny Franchise join the show?
I agree 100%.
Jesus Christ.
Safety first, and I agree. I don't want to see the 6-sided ring back at all.
Yeah, I think that you guys hit the nails on the head. Workers' safety first, and people who don't like it, they'll get over it. It's really not the most important thing.
If you're not gonna watch the show because of what shape the ring is, then get the fuck out of it. Don't even watch wrestling.
And no. If you are, that's great. Go watch AAA because. That's their design. That's where TNA stole it from. So go watch Mexico. They got that all day.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm taking over. Damn it.
Go for it.
I just wanted to ask if there were any other final thoughts on Bound for Glory.
I have one last sentence.
Please.
It was great to hear Mike Tenay's voice again
and just see him like that. Honestly, my 2 biggest highlights for the night were watching Jordan Grace win the Collier shot, because first woman to do it, and she's been the first to do a lot of things in the business. And secondly, she deserved it. It was really nice to see her get something at the quote unquote end of the year for all the hard damn work that she has done for that company.
She made after too. I love making history. That was perfect for her.
Like, if I can, be all smarky for a minute there, and, everyone keeps talking about the pillars of all of these other companies. If I was going to name the pillars of TNA right now, Jordan Grace would be one of them. So
you're not wrong. Yeah.
So having her get that recognition just warmed my heart to no end.
Who would your guys' pillars be? I'm curious to hear now. I'm
Oh.
putting you on the spot, guys.
Now- now-
Four people that are carrying that Impact banner right now.
Well, I've already
Oh.
said Jordan. I'll throw Alexander in there as well because I think
Mhm.
that's kind of
Yeah.
you have to.
You have to.
Um,
I'm
Bailey?
gonna put Bailey in there.
Me
I
too.
think you
Yeah.
have to put Bailey in there.
Me too.
I'd put Mike
Um,
Bailey in there,
and
and
then you know,
because again, I'm a stan. Trey Miguel all day, every day.
yeah, okay.
Oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
actually I'm gonna put Deonna Purrazzo on mine.
That's fair. See, that's the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about the Impact right now is that you could name four completely different guys. You could have said
And-
you could have someone come to me and say, "What? Why isn't Moose in your four? Why isn't Steve Macklin in your four? Why isn't Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Tasha Steeles in your list?" And you're like, "Yeah,
Listen,
those all make sense."
Who'd they
I
ever
gotta
beat?
throw. I gotta throw that big name out there too. I gotta throw a Bully Ray, man. Bully Ray as well.
The only reason
I
I would not include someone like him or like an Eddie Edwards is because when you talk about pillars, you're traditionally speaking talking about people that are holding up the company for the future, as in young
Okay.
upcoming talents there. Otherwise, if it was just a matter of people holding up
But-
that company, I think
Eric
Eddie
Young.
Edwards would have to be on there.
I don't
Eric
think
Young would have to be on there.
I don't think there's anybody molding the future of this company better than Bully Ray is right now because he's putting over all this young talent. He's the one getting them ready for the future, right?
It's a fair
I-
counterpoint. Fair
I think
counterpoint.
Bully is very, very important to this company.
Is he done or is he re-signed?
I don't know.
I haven't heard anything.
He was very now I've been very not as good at watching week to week for the last 2-3 months, so I don't know what they've been doing with Bully, but he was very, very babyface at the Gauntlet.
Well, I'd heard some rumors, specifically, I may have even heard them on this show, about him potentially, doing something with a former brother of his somewhere else. So
Devon said
and-
he'd like to do one more run.
and Impact oftentimes, has these shorter term contracts, and it's been 1 year. Is all I'm saying is it's been 1 year exactly. I think he may be on his way out the door. Now, that being said, hopefully not, because he's incredible talent. But even if he has, Mike, you made a really excellent point. He's done a tremendous amount for that company in that year. Like there's probably no bigger name that's come in through Impact's doors that has made that much of an impact in 1 year.
And
we still have Tommy Dreamer. We're okay. We're okay.
And he recently teamed up with Jody Threat, who you can see in Barry Wrestling on November the 4th, which is awesome.
That's right.
That's
Absolutely.
my plug. That's my plug.
There you go. Hey, got to get your shit in there. I get it. Absolutely.
Before we get to the list, Mike, did you? I know off air you said you had something you wanted to talk about. Did that already come up, or because you never tell me fucking anything? So
I know I don't need to. No, this is the only non TNA non Impact thing I want to talk about today.
All right, I'm out.
I just have a there's been a discussion point going around the internet for the last few days that I just really want to get your guys' opinions on whether it's a good thing, a bad thing, or if you just don't give a fuck. Listen, you'd be stupid. Like anybody who thinks this is news is dumb. It's very obvious that for the last several years, WWE has been piping in crowd noise, whether it's boos or cheers or whatever, and it's been very, very present with one Dominic Mysterio as they're trying to get him over as one of the biggest heels in the company. The reason it's being talked about so much right now is because Sean Ross Sapp made a big deal of it on his fucking blog or whatever the fuck you call it, and now everybody's talking about it. My question to you, gentlemen, is what I offer to you is, does this hurt the credibility of professional wrestling to do something like this? Does it help it, or does it just not fucking matter? Adam, let's start with you, man.
I mean, it's a television program. And my thought would be, if you're crafting a narrative, it's no different than a laugh track on a comedy show. Now, whether or not you think that would detract from a program or add to it is dependent upon what type of viewer you are. Some folks, I'm sure, love to have the direction. To me, it's no different than having a play-by-play announcer tell us why Dominic Mysterio is such a dastardly person and we shouldn't like him. It's all direction. It's all about crafting a narrative. It's a tool in a toolbox. You know, do you choose to use it or not? Well, that's up to you. I do understand the perspective of some purists who may be like, well, you're messing with the purity of the thing. And you know what? If you have that stance, that's absolutely fine. But then again, there are whole countries who like wrestling that crowd noise is not really even a thing
Right.
where they perform. So I think there are so many X factors and intangibles to consider here that it really, what it comes down to is personal taste and preference.
Now-
do you care about that stuff or not? Like, to me, a laugh track has never bothered me on a comedy program, but other people despise comedies that use them and use it as a point of parody. So to me, I think it really comes down to personal preference, whether or not it bothers you or not. And on top of it, can you even tell? Like, I always thought the crowd reactions to Dominic were real. So if they have been proven to be piped in, they got me. But I didn't care. I just thought it was great. And if it makes him more over and it makes people hate him a little bit more, then good job. You did what you were setting out to do.
To those purists too, all I would easily say is if you're a wrestling so-called purist, then maybe stop trying to get yourself over at the shows and start booing the heels like you're supposed to. They wouldn't have to pipe in the fucking sound. Tyler, what's your thought on that?
I've got a totally different take on this, actually. For me personally, I don't give a shit. Pipe in noise, don't pipe in noise, whatever. I don't care.
That's what I expected from you, and I agree with you.
But I think that it actually hurts Dominic Mysterio more than it helps him. I think that people might feel like it's the WWE trying to force Dominic Mysterio onto people and force him.
They were going to feel like that anyways, but yeah.
I mean, it's been proven that when people feel like someone's being forced onto them, that they reject them. And I don't think Dominic needs that extra help. I think he's a good enough heel without that. And I just hope that people don't start just looking at that being like, oh, here's the WWE telling us what we need to do. Fuck this guy. We're out.
Counterpoint to that, if I may. I think the audience that a company like WWE is trying to reach is not the type of fan that would really think that much into it. And that's not to insult the intelligence of their audience. What I'm saying is that the WWE is for kids. At the end of the day, it is a family and child centric program. And when you're dealing with that, one of the best ways to get children and families involved in a call and response form of entertainment is to train them to do so. And by doing so, by influencing the television product so that when a child watches Dominic Mysterio on television and hears that he gets so drowned out by the booze that he has to stop talking, he then bothers his parents to say, hey, I want tickets to SmackDown so that when I go to SmackDown and Dominic Mysterio starts talking, I can start booing and I can be a part of it. I get to be that. That's the fun of it, right? So my take on that is that, yes, you're absolutely right. There are going to be certain segments of the crowd that would rebel against that sort of thing. But my counterpoint to that is that there are also going to be members of people watching that television program at home that's going to have the exact effect that they want, which is it's going to make them go, oh, great, I want to go to SmackDown and I want to drown out Dominic Mysterio with my booze, which sounds weird out of context.
I want to cheer him
Good point.
because he's so entertaining.
I love him. He's probably my we'll talk about the end of the at the end of the year, but right now he's hovering in the 1 to 2 spot for best heel of the year for me.
I'd like
him and Christian.
I'd like to book
him and
on
Christian.
I'd like to book a little on the fly here, and Mike and Adam, if you guys have a problem with this, just let me know. But I want to put Adam on the spot on air. And I would like to invite you back onto the show before the year is over to do a top 7 Impact Wrestling matches of the year, if you'd be interested in that.
Oh, sure. I would be happy to do that if you guys would have me on again. That would be great.
Good thing you told him now because he's going to need this time to get.
I figured I should give you a couple months to work on it.
That's a hell of a list, man. Because I do think that they have put on the best shows and the best matches this year. So wow, I'm glad you did not give that to me.
I might scale it down to main events.
There you go. All right, we can do that.
Depending on how busy the next couple of months get for me, but I might have a little extra time as we get towards the holiday season. So I'll start working on it now. And as we get closer to the date, I may change it to the main events of the year, but we'll do what we can.
Well, you've also come with a list today talking about
every time.
Wait a minute. Does that mean it's showtime?
Oh,
oh God. I always call Van Landen the 1990s version of Sting when I see him, because every time he works a Barrie wrestling show, he always gets turned on by his tag team partner, but he just never stops trusting. Keep on trucking on, brother.
No, you know what? That's the best thing to call him too, because Van Landen in Barrie at least has the Sting pop. Like they love him the way Atlanta loved Sting.
He's got a hell of an entrance, brother.
He's got a hell of an entrance. Fucking that thing's killing your throat.
Oh yeah, I can't talk for 2 days after I do Van Landen.
Now I'm gonna. You've only known Adam for a few years, Tyler. So I don't know if you know this about him, so I'm gonna tell you right now. We tasked him with this list. It's a TNA match list with Sting. I'm just letting you know now. I don't know if there's 7 Joker Sting matches out there, but if there is, that's all we're getting tonight. And I'm going to love it because I fucking love me some Joker Sting. And the fact that he even used it for one show at least at AEW makes me a happy, happy man.
All right. I'm just going through this right now. One match on
only one Joker Sting, really?
Okay. Joker Sting match, yes, absolutely. Although easily my favorite iteration of the character, and
100%.
And I'm not talking about you guys. I'm sorry, I cannot.
Did you not like Joker Sting, Tyler?
I wasn't a big fan. Now, to be fair, I think if I went back and rewatched it with fresh eyes, I would enjoy it more. But I was very done with TNA product when Joker Sting came around, and I just don't think there was a lot I could have.
It was Joker Sting that made me jump back in because, like I said before, I did not watch during the Hogan and Bischoff era. So every time someone would tell me something, it was probably Adam, about Joker Sting, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. I'd have to go and watch. And I wouldn't watch the full show, but I was sure as hell watch the Sting segments. And like that stuff with where he locks Bischoff in the fucking office with the bird, and some of his promos in the ring with Hogan, fucking gold, man.
I will give a plug to another fantastic show, but I'm Mike. I've been begging to watch this show for 3 years. OSW reviews. Adam, do you ever watch OSW reviews?
I do, yes.
They are currently right now doing a breakdown of the Main Event Mafia run. And it is I'm a couple episodes behind on it. I just started rewatching it again, but fuck, man, it's so funny. They're doing the Booker T respect, and I'm all in on it. I'm now a Main Event Mafia fan. I was never a Main Event Mafia fan before that.
Yeah, definitely go back and watch some of that. I'll have a couple of matches on here that I'll also maybe make recommendation to check out if you haven't before. All right, so let's jump right in. This is basically a list based upon just kind of my own personal preferences of things that I really liked. But I've also based on a couple of other things that I will explain as we go with the matches. So let's jump in here and get it going with my number 7 pick. We're going to a match that I actually think is a little lost to time. It's not one that gets brought up a lot, but I actually think is quite good. Obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be on my list here. I compiled this list by starting off going through articles of the best Sting matches in TNA. Surprisingly, not a lot out there.
I found a couple Reddit articles, but that was about it.
So I
Yeah.
turned to places like Reddit and even a
Yeah.
few best of DVDs that were released by TNA. And I will say this, some of these, like, oh, here's a missed gem recommendations. I have no idea how hard these people got hit in the head with some of these recommendations. I don't know who decided that Sting versus Abyss in the Prison Yard match from Against All Odds 2007 deserved to be one of the best Sting matches in TNA, but you need to see a doctor immediately because that is bad. But one of the matches that someone said gets overlooked a little bit. I had to agree because it's my number 7 spot from Final Resolution 2007. It's Sting versus Christian Cage versus Abyss in a triple threat match for the NWA Championship.
Not only do I like this match, I like this year for Sting. This is a good year for Sting.
It was a really good year for Sting, as you will see later on in the list here. This match surprised me with how fun it was. There was a lot of moving parts, and this match could have really veered off the deep end into like crazy TNA overbooking territory here, but I think they pulled back on it just enough. You had Christian Cage here essentially just doing a remix version of his Captain Charisma gimmick from 2005 WWE. Tomko was there with him. I don't know, Tyler, if you nothing the shark cage, but there was a shark cage in the match. Tomko was not suspended above it. He was locked inside it, but it was a fun gimmick. You have the Sinister Minister out here doing his over-the-top shtick. And you have some really great spots between the three guys. You could tell that these three got together and said, okay, what are each of our strong points? And how do we highlight each of those strong points? And how do we make creative and interesting move sets and spots and tell a story with this? Not too big on the story, but a lot of fun. So this is one of those ones I'm going to put in that category of maybe this one gets overlooked in a lot of lists, and maybe it's one that, you know, you haven't seen or have never thought about in a while. Go back and watch it. I think it's a hidden gem from Sting in this time frame. All right.
Have you seen this match, Tyler?
I have not seen this match.
Okay. All right.
It's worth going back and seeing it.
I agree with that 100%. I do enjoy this match.
All right, moving on to number 6. It's still 2007, but we're going towards the end of the year and to a show that we've spent a lot of time talking about already. Bound for Glory. Sting versus Kurt Angle for the TNA Heavyweight Championship.
That's a good match. I have seen.
I watched this last night. Tremendous. Yeah. And this is where I would have put it as well in the 5 to 6 spot.
When I started this list, I thought this one was going to be up a lot higher, to be honest with you. But Sting has a lot of hidden gems in his TNA run. And again, that's not to put down this match. This match is excellent. It may be the best that Sting and Kurt Angle were together because they have had a lot of matches. I originally watched 22 matches for this list, and Sting and Kurt Angle showed up no less than 5 times on it. These two guys had real chemistry with each other. Now, the reason why this one, above all their other ones, makes it onto the list for me is because this one had the right combination of not only great wrestling from a mechanic standpoint, but the crowd in Atlanta was incredibly hot for both men, especially considering their histories, both Kurt Angle there as the place where he won his Olympic gold medal, but also Sting in Atlanta, the home of WCW for many decades. You know, the finish, as you're going to see in a lot of these, a little screwy, something that TNA was kind of known for during that time frame, but it wasn't so bad and over the top that it ruined the match for me. Kurt Angle pulling off a 450 and almost crushing Sting with his knees, still physically impressive. And Sting really showed, I think, here that he could still really go. And if you even just take a look, a year prior in 2006, when he made like not a full-time return to TNA, but a regular schedule, it took him a while to really knock the rust off. And I think that goes back to what Mike had said earlier, that 2007 was the year that Sting proved the old "you still got it" cliche applied to him. And I think this was the match that people stood up and they realized, Sting can hang. Like, he can hang with the best freaking wrestler in the world. So whoever's listening to this, if you're a TNA fan, if you're a Sting fan, yeah, you've probably seen this match, but it's worth watching a second or third or fifth time. It's really damn good.
What I
know,
like about this too is not only does it involve Mike's new friend Kurt Angle, but this just feels like a big match. It feels like a dream match. Like Kurt Angle, Sting, like that's what I'm talking about. Like I don't even need to see a build. I don't need to see anything. You tell me you've got Kurt Angle going against Sting, I'm all in.
This was a match WWE was trying to get booked 5 years ago at WrestleMania 18. And TNA got there first. Suckers.
I still think we should have Kurt Perfect at 18. I'll die on that.
I was texting with Adam, I believe it was last night, about my good friend Kurt Angle. And he says to me, it's funny, I'm actually watching a Kurt Angle match right now. I said, fuck, me too. I'm watching, and it was this match. It was Bound for Glory in the and then Bound for Glory 07. He laughed because he was watching. I don't want to bring up the match because it might show up on this list, but he says he's watching also Sting versus Kurt Angle at a different pay-per-view. So it was kind of funny timing on that.
Get the corn out, boys.
I'll spoil it and say that it was Destination X, 2009. It's not on this list.
Okay.
Kurt Angle, there is one wrestler that shows up twice on this list, but it's not Kurt Angle.
And if this match was going to be at your number 6 spot, that makes sense. This was the best match of their run.
Yeah, I agree.
Together.
I agree 100%. All right. Who's ready for some Memphis in Detroit? If you are, then you're ready for my number 5 match, which is Sting versus Jeff Jarrett with Kurt Angle as the special guest referee from Bound for Glory 2006. Get ready, folks. Bound for Glory comes up a lot in Sting's TNA career because he was usually the main event for most of those big matches. 100%.
Well, we did a best Bound for Glory main events. I believe like last year.
One of the lost episodes. One of the lost episodes of Impact of Counted Out.
Oh yeah, you guys never finished that.
We never did. Maybe
I forgot about that.
Maybe next year we'll try it again. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, you only have about two spots left to finish on it, boys. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so look, when you're comparing this match to say Sting versus Kurt Angle and other matches you're going to see on this list, there is no comparison in terms of pro wrestling. In fact, I will go so far as to say Sting was rusty during this match. He was not crisp. You could tell that he had spent 2 months prior getting himself into amazing shape. This may be the best shape Sting has ever been in, but you could tell he'd been away from the ring for a little while. That being said, that crowd, the drama that they did, chef's kiss, baby. This was all about, again, Memphis. This was a Memphis main event on TNA, but done right.
If I'm not mistaken, Adam, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was the first touring pay-per-view event that they did outside of like the Impact, like their actual pay-per-views.
This, I think, was the first pay-per-view that
like on
they
location
did outside of the Impact zone. Detroit was such a great hotbed for them. Obviously, they had some connections in the area with Scott D'Amore at the time running from the area, and they had a lot of Detroit talent on their roster, but none of that mattered because the fact of the matter was you had the biggest star in the company up until probably a couple weeks prior to it, Sting, in there with their easily biggest heel, Jeff Jarrett, in a story that they had literally spent the entire year building, because Sting made his return at Final Resolution in January to be Christian Cage's partner. Then he sporadically showed up throughout the year to basically punk out Jeff Jarrett. So TNA knew what they were doing. They took their time and they realized, okay, Sting's the biggest name we're going to have. Jeff Jarrett is the biggest heel we're going to have. We got to put them together, the biggest show of the year. Oh, Kurt Angle just got kicked out of WWE for not going to rehab. Yeah, we'll pick up Perk Angle's contract and throw him in the main event too. Why not? And it's amazing. The storytelling is so great here. Not just the Sting and Jarrett stuff, but Kurt Angle stuff too. Kurt looks fantastic. The crowd is so with this match. They cheer everything. They boo everything. And again, when I say it's Memphis, I mean that in the best way possible, in that you have stuff that's goofy as hell, like Sting taking guitar shots and just completely no selling it and stinging up. But that crowd stays with them the entire time. The crowd basically just goes to TNA and those three guys and says, here, take my hand and just guide me. Take me on this journey, guys. We're right there with you. And sometimes, as we've proven in the past, that can make all the difference. And that's why this match for me gets a higher spot than, say, a Sting versus Kurt Angle. Is Sting versus Kurt Angle the better wrestling match? Absolutely it is. And the crowd in Atlanta was hot. Not as hot as that Detroit crowd. Of all the matches on this list, the crowd for Sting versus Jarrett is easily the hottest, save for maybe one that we will get to a little bit later.
I remember.
What are your memories of this match?
I remember Sting's entrance because he came out with his robe from the 80s, the old Scorpion robe. I remember that. I remember Kurt Angle and Joe's brawl before the match, which I thought really kind of hyped up the crowd energy as well. I remember the guitar shot. I really have fond memories of this match as well. This is a great match.
It had a real big match feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was important, I think, for Bound for Glory, especially because it was their first time outside of Florida. They needed something to end real strong, and they did. Honest to God, like it sounds silly, but this whole pay-per-view, Bound for Glory 2006, I think is one of the best pay-per-views TNA ever produced. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that that main event was so damn strong. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
yeah,
this was a good card.
I know some people are not going to like it because they're not a fan of that kind of shtick, but you know me, I'm Memphis ride or die. So that kind of booking, that hits my sweet spot. All right, moving on to number 4. Guess what? It's Bound for Glory again.
What?
But this time it's 2009, and we're on the opposite end of the country. We're out in California for Sting versus AJ Styles.
Interesting.
Now,
I thought this would be in your top 3. I'm very surprised.
I had a feeling this would be the top 1 or 2. Yeah.
Now some may be surprised. Mike, I'm surprised that you're surprised, because if you remember our lost episode, I scored this one quite low on our list.
I don't remember that. I think I repressed that because you upset me.
Mike didn't even remember that you guys didn't finish recording the episode, let alone.
Yeah, I know.
Now, I'll explain why at the time I had thought that the match was a little bit lower on the list, because I thought the babyface versus babyface dynamic made it lack a certain something, and I still kind of feel that way. This is an incredible wrestling match from bell to bell. Sting is giving his all in this match. He is trying to do for AJ Styles what Ric Flair did for him back at Clash of the Champions. That's exactly what this match is all about. Mm-hmm. And I will compare it to another match on my list. Everybody knows what's coming. AJ Styles is AJ Styles. So you're not going to get a bad match out of that guy. I will say this. Going back and watching this match, it's better than I remember it. I think if I was to do another Bound for Glory main events list, I might rank this one higher now, because there is a lot of great crowd energy, but there is something lacking without there being a clear-cut heel. in this matchup. Now,
Yeah.
that's all the reasons that it's not higher, but the reason it's on the list is because, again, from a pure technical standpoint, this is maybe the best match on the card on my list in terms of just pure wrestling. And it's a dream match. Again, it's Sting versus AJ Styles.
No, I might be getting my time periods mixed up a little bit here, but how much longer was Sting in TNA for after this match? Was this close to the end of his run?
At least 2-3 more years.
About 4.
About 4, okay. But this was
Yeah.
the first time that Sting had lost at a Bound for Glory, correct?
I believe you are right on that. Yes,
because they kind of had not. It's obviously not an Undertaker streak, but like I do remember,
But
like
he was Mr. Bound for Glory. Yeah,
I do, yeah,
sure.
I do remember them really talking about Sting's Bound for Glory run leading up to this match, and this was, like you said, this was a passing of the torch moment for sure.
The funny thing is, I while starting to plan for this list originally was not a TNA list. This list was the best of Sting before the TNA announcement. So, like I always do, I go and look at other people's lists. I go to the Sports Center, I go to Bleacher Report, I go to all these other, and I look at other lists, and I basically laugh at them because my lists never ever mirror their lists ever. Somebody's doing something wrong. I'm going to go ahead and say it's them. But I looked at 5 different lists, and all lists, and this is the best matches of Sting in his entire career. 4 out of 5 lists had this match on it, but this was the only TNA match on any of the lists. So I'm going to say that the general consensus of the other people that do what we do, worse than we do, consider this to be Sting's best TNA match. That obviously it wasn't my number one. Would it be your number one, Tyler?
I just can't get over the fact that you actually didn't mean to, but actually complimented me. So I'm just going to sit on that. I make lists too, and apparently they're better than other people's lists. Look at me go.
I do like your list way more than 90% of the Sportsters list or Bleacher Report.
This is not my favorite Sting TNA match. It's a very good match, but I do like some other ones better.
All right.
I have one that I don't know if it will make your list or not, and I think it's an unpopular opinion one, but we'll wait and see.
All right. Well, it's not my favorite Sting match in TNA. It's not even my favorite Sting versus AJ Styles match in TNA, because my number 3 is Sting versus AJ Styles from Turning Point 2008. And I know you're all looking at me like going, wait, what match? Yes, I know. This is another one of these lost gem match.
I'm not sure I've seen that.
This is just when the main event Mafia has formed. Sting has fully become a heel, and his first target after taking the TNA championship is AJ Styles, the guy that I would consider the penultimate TNA original. What separates this match to me from the Bound for Glory match is the clear-cut heel face dynamic here. Sting is the clear heel and AJ Styles the clear baby face. And although Sting has struggled with being a heel at points throughout his career, this crowd loved AJ Styles. They despised Sting for turning his back on the TNA originals, and it shows in this matchup. This plays out more like a traditional babyface heel wrestling match. And to me, that does make it more entertaining. There are points during AJ Styles versus Sting in Bound for Glory where I feel it drags a bit because they're trying to really get over the fact that, God, these two really respect each other. There is zero respect in this match. This one is all about trying to teach the young punk a lesson, and about AJ Styles saying, move out of my way, old man, it's my time. And that dynamic, I think, takes this match to a level that's above the other one. You still get the great wrestling because it's fucking AJ Styles. You can't have a bad match with this guy. And it's still Sting. So you still got all the great psychology and entertainment, but now you have some meat on the bone that you can really sink your teeth into. So much like with the Christian Cage Abyss Sting match, this is one doesn't end up on a lot of lists, but I'm so glad that I did find in one of those Reddit threads, because looking back on it, I agree. This is a great Sting match. It's one that's lost the time, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's on a lesser popular pay-per-view, a pay-per-view that not as many people saw. So you're not going to get as many eyeballs on it to say, holy God, these two work really well together. Yeah, Sting and AJ Styles work really well together every time, but I think this one is worth going back and checking out, because I really do feel like of all their encounters, this one's the best. And it's forgotten to time, both because it's on a lesser known pay-per-view, and unfortunately we get the typical TNA screwy finish, which sucks. But
you can
those
be
two
honest.
things aside,
You can be honest with us, Adam. Are you just putting this one ahead of the other one because of the amazing Main Event Mafia theme music?
I mean, it is a banger. Let's not mince words here.
Respect.
All of Sting's matches up to this point seem to be about respect. So I see that you guys probably aren't familiar with this one, so I won't put you on the spot with it, but I encourage you to go back and watch it and maybe give me some feedback on it. So that being said, there are two matches that I think are a little bit better than that. But you said the word respect. And this next match wasn't so much about respect as it was about, um, you know, control and fighting for honor, I would say. And it's also one of Sting's last pay-per-view matches with the company. We're going to Slammiversary 2013, Sting versus Bully Ray for the TNA.
So happy right now.
For the TNA Championship no holds barred match. What a fun clusterfuck this match
dude,
is.
I had this reeled up for my honorable mentions, because I know once we got past your number 5, I'm like, okay, he won't be talking about this. It's cool. I'll talk about it in the honorable mentions. Dude, this was my number 3. So the fact that it's your number 2 is amazing. Fuck man, I love this match. I absolutely adore this match. Have you seen this, Tyler? No holds barred, Bully Ray.
Is this
Bully Ray versus Sting?
Is this during Aces and Eights time?
Yes.
I was out of the, I think this was when I stopped watching.
I don't blame you. I definitely didn't watch it during that time. I watched it years later, but I love this match.
I have heard good things about this match, but I've never seen it.
I am so happy right now.
It was overdone. It's overdone now. But at the time, pulling the mat off of the ring and pile driving a guy on the exposed wood was not something you ever saw. And Bully Ray was the guy to do this first with Sting. And it's awesome. And the crowd act like Sting is dead when he hits it. It's so great. This is a real great match. Again, if you like the Memphis style, if you like the over the top storytelling, this is your match, because there are some like 6 spots in it, but mostly this is a spectacle. This is a spectacle of violence. It's all about Bully Ray pummeling the crap out of Sting and Sting refusing to die. He takes the pile driver on the wood. He takes a power bomb through the table. He gets hit with a chain and a chair. He gets hit like 12 times with a chair. It's almost sick how much punishment Sting takes, but he keeps coming back. The only thing that is able to put him down is a bunch of distractions and gang beatdowns from Aces and Eights, which takes away from it, but I get it. They're trying to get Bully Ray over as a heel. And he finishes it off with Bully Ray smashing his head with a hammer when he dives off the top for a crossbody and pinning him. It's awesome. It's just a symphony of excessive violence, like cartoony violence, but still violence. Yeah. But it's so fun. And looking at the rest of this list, I was like, is there a match on here that I had more fun watching, or I was more engaged watching? No. This match was the most engaging of all the matches I watched on that 22 match list.
I could not be happier. And not only because of your choice, because something you said, you mentioned the overdone this now of ripping the ring apart. In Impact alone, they've done it too much in the last few years. But in wrestling as a whole, it's been done too much in the last few years. And I've probably even mentioned this on this show. Only once in the last several years have I said that there's only one match in my mind that it had this kind of effect since 2013. And it's something that I was very fortunate enough to be ringside for with Tyler. And that was Masha Slamovich versus Mike Bailey at Worst Behavior this year. They did the rip the ring apart spot. And it was the first time I felt, okay, this is actually working and is not gratuitous or just for the sake of being stupid. It led to the match and it did something just like Sting and believed it. I fucking love that. And if you haven't seen that match, Adam, I highly suggest you go and watch from March's Worst Behavior GCW pay-per-view, Masha Slamovich versus Mike Bailey. Phenomenal match.
Does it have Taz's irreverent commentary over it, like this match does? No,
I mean, we could probably get it in there. Tyler does a pretty good Taz impression.
Well, it's better than his
brother.
Tony Schiavone.
Don't wear orange.
Yeah, don't wear orange, right?
Hey, you did not. My Tony Schiavone is probably in the top 3 greatest Tony Schiavones of all time.
Top 20.
Yeah. Top 23.
All right.
So I think it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. My number one, I imagine everybody has figured out by this point. It's Sting versus Samoa Joe from Bound for Glory 4.
This is my number one as well.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, God damn it, what a match. It's just so good.
I didn't know.
If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was my number one from our Bound for Glory list. I think it was.
We never got that far.
We never got that
far.
No. But like, and how appropriate that it's Sting the weekend after, or the week of he makes his retirement announcement. It's at Bound for Glory. The week it was Bound for Glory. And it's the Bound from Glory from the last time they were in Chicago, which is where they were this weekend. So incredibly serendipitous that we would. Now that's of course not the reason why it's number one. It's number one because it's a fucking banger of a match, baby.
It's number one because Samoa Joe runs out of a fucking balcony box and kills himself.
That is up there with one of the, like, easily, I think it's a top 5 spot of all time.
I might want to take a Hell in a Cell bump over that fucking bump. Like,
how much you want to say there was a young Darby Allin watching that match going,
well, you know, it's funny.
Killing yourself, eh?
I like this guy's moveset and that guy's aesthetic.
It's funny because I know I mentioned OSW reviews before, but I didn't know until watching the review of this match that bump that Samoa Joe took, like he hurt his tailbone pretty bad on it, obviously, but this was the bump that made Joe take a step back and reevaluate his style, and he kind of cut back on some of this crazy stuff, and he almost nutted himself on the railing too, which I don't know. Like, he just came really close to nutting himself.
Listen, I don't care what profession you're in, and I don't care how good you are. You get off of a day of work, you clock out, and you've realized I've almost ruptured my testicles and shattered my spine. You're going to reevaluate your fucking life, let alone the style in which you're working, my man. I would put that dive up there with Elix Skipper's cage walk, like in terms of like replayed big time spots from TNA's history. But look, it's not just the spot. Like, everyone remembers the spot, but it's everything surrounding the spot and that match. The story that these guys were telling, the whole like matter of respect between Sting and AJ Styles. This thing is blown to the nth degree because it's literally about Sting being like, "You don't respect me," and Joe going, "Yeah, you're right, I don't. Fuck you, old man." And like, just it's such a good story. I was so engaged watching this when it first aired, and going back and watching it again, I'm still engaged. Both these guys played their parts perfectly. Like, Sting was more aggressive here. Do you know, honestly, I get the big stare spot, everyone loves it. You know, my favorite spot in the entire match is Sting doing a muscle buster to Joe jumping up and completely no selling it. and then Joe doing a reverse, like a death drop, and Sting getting up and completely no-selling it. I was like,
that's a pump up moment.
But it's not only a pump up moment, like it's not just a pop, it's the story. It's the story of Sting doing the muscle buster, being like, ha ha, I can still go with these kids. And Joe standing up and saying, oh, you did not just try and do my move, you decrepit old man. And then Joe doing his move, doing Sting's move, going like, ha ha, you old fart. And Sting getting up and say, you young whippersnapper, I ain't fucking done yet.
I'm all for any use of the word whippersnapper, so I'm already happy.
We're all big Mikey Whipwreck fans. The only downside to this match is the finish. We know that the fact that there was interference in it, but big picture here, without it, we don't get the main event Mafia theme that we talked about earlier. So
respect.
It was the domino, the first domino in what would end up becoming probably one of the best factions, if not the best faction in TNA's history. Is the wrestling as good as Sting and AJ Styles or Kurt Angle? No, but it's close. Is it as loud and as involved crowd-wise as Jeff Jarrett versus Sting or Kurt Angle versus Sting? No, but it's real close. Is the brawling better than any of the Bully Ray match? No, but it's real close. The point I'm making is that it may not be the best of all of those, but it has almost the best of everything. And the sum of this match is so much more than the whole. The whole of this match is so much more than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. It's not a match that you can point to and say like, okay, this is the best of Sting in this particular category, but it is the one match I think that has Sting doing an excellent job in every one of those categories, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that's why I have to put it at number one, because it doesn't excel in just one category. It does an excellent job in all of them. So if I have to tell anybody, like, you have one TNA Sting match to watch, this is the one.
100%.
Yeah, we're all in agreement on your number one on that one for sure.
Didn't mean to go on a rant about it. I just love that match so much.
I have one honorable mention, and only
I'd
one.
love to hear it.
And it's not. I totally understand why it's not on the list, because it's not the best match on the planet. But I just have so much fun going back and watching it. And it's from Bound for Glory. It's Sting versus Hogan.
That's on my honorable mentions.
I don't think I could put it on my list, but like that Philadelphia crowd. I don't know if it's just because I'm a Hulkamaniac at heart and watching that transition and the shirt rip and the story of like after the match when Sting's getting the beat down, he's yelling "Help me" to Hogan. Like, I don't know. I just have fond memories back on that one.
Can I tell a story that maybe is only going to pop about 10 people listening to this, but
that means we're going to have our highest ratings for the last 2 weeks.
But the 10 people who hear it will probably really love the fact that I brought this up. So years ago, I used to do a little show called We Have Till 5 with a guy named Andrew Kent. And we did a list of the best matches in Bound for Glory history. Now, Kent and I had pretty diametrically opposed views about what makes wrestling great. And as he was continuing...
Mike?
Even worse, man. Even worse. Only because I don't know how he did it. I can tolerate you. I love Andrew Kent as a human being. I could not do a show with him every week. Holy fuck.
So as we're getting closer to the end of the list and we're comparing our notes of, where our spots are, he's getting a bit more and more confused about what my number one is going to be. And we get to the number one and he's like, I mean, it's got to be AJ Styles and Chris Daniels versus LAX in the steel cage, right? That's the best match. It's got to be that. And I was like, that's not my match.
Great
and
match.
He goes, well, yeah, unless you're picking like Sting and Hogan, right? And I looked over at him and he's like, No, you didn't really pick Sting versus Hogan. And I said, I picked Sting versus Hogan as my pick. And he got so mad. He got he, he I could like flames on the side of his face. He was so angry with me that I had picked Hulk Hogan versus Sting as my favorite Bound for Glory match. So let me be the first to say, upon further review of this match, Andrew Kent, you were right and I was wrong. That match is dog shit, and I'm sorry. But
it deserves an honorable mention. It's fun.
It does. You can see that they are clearly trying to recreate the magic of Rock versus Hogan, but Hogan is even less mobile in this match than he was for Rock Hogan, and they pull out every gimmick in the book to try and cover, and they can't save it. It's just awful. However, there is something that never gets old about watching Hulk Hogan rip his shirt off, Hulk up, and have the crowd absolutely fall in love with him all over again.
That was the last match.
It was his last match on TNA on television, I think. I think he had one match like in the UK that was untelevised, but who cares? Nobody counts that. But I get it. And 100% an honorable mention. If you're listening to this and you've never seen it,
just watch a post match.
Yes, literally watch the finish and the post match. That's really all you need to see.
Let me tell you, let me break this down for you for a minute, Tyler, just to let you know like exactly what Adam was dealing with. Andrew Kent's Twitter handle, if I'm not mistaken, was Smarks Anonymous.
Yes.
So that tells you everything you need to know about that piece of shit. Also, I don't think like he was so anti-mainstream on this show. It's like if Adam would bring up a WWF classic, he'd be like, well, is it as good as fucking Christopher Daniels versus who the fuck cares and ROH fucking at an ROH show, house show that never got televised that nobody saw except for me. You know what I mean? Like he was that fucking guy. Very, very funny. I love. Let me put this down. Andrew Kent is a beautiful human being. As a wrestling fan, could not be more different than me, even more different than me than you are. And he and I have butt heads several times.
Okay, so that's the first honorable mention. I'm going to throw one out real quick, and it is actually from the same era. This is a one that, again, I saw on a Reddit list and I wasn't quite sure about, but I'm really glad I ended up watching it because I think this is what I would classify as a hidden gem. It's Sting versus Austin Aries from the main event of Impact Wrestling, March the 14th, 2013.
I saw that on a Reddit list as well and made me watch it. Wouldn't make my list, but honorable mention, sure.
I'm only putting it on an honorable mention because I think it's a match that no one remembers. I certainly didn't. And I think it's worth watching. Honestly, for the 10 minutes those guys are out there, it's really good. And surprisingly, the styles work really well together. So that's more of an honorable mention just because I want to show it some love because I think it's a better match than people remember it for, and it's worth checking out.
I've got an honorable mention. I got 1.5, and I'll explain that in a minute. My one is I had a few, but you guys already mentioned several of them. But this one is not just an honorable mention for me. This would be on my list. This is an honorable mention only because it didn't make your list. This would be on my personal list. I'm going to 2012 Victory Road against Bobby Roode. I really, really enjoy this match.
So
I don't know what your face is telling me right now.
So remember how I said I went back and I watched Sting Hogan and I was like, boy, this match is not as good as I remember it.
Yeah. Same thing. I haven't watched it in several years. I didn't rewatch it for this list. So
I put this match below Hogan Sting.
This is the. Am I thinking of the right match? This is the match where he ties him up in the corner and. Right.
This is the one where he does the death drop and he bonks his head on the steel chair for the finish.
Yeah.
This match is so fucking boring. I just was so unengaged.
I liked it.
This
Have you seen this match, Tyler?
No, I have not.
No. Okay.
I will fully admit to being in the minority because this match popped up on so many lists. And
Okay.
I went back and watched it, and I don't know what you're all smoking, but like to me, this match was just so boring. I just was like, oh my God, when is this going to end? The heat just went on forever, and I just felt like I just could not get into it, man. God
All
bless you
right.
for loving it. And again, you're definitely in the majority and I'm in the minority of this one. But yeah, I was shocked and I was really disappointed and sad because at the end of it, I was like, wow, I hated that. And I didn't want to hate it. I wanted to love it. And I was just like,
both Tyler have been there for this show where you're like, I have to rewatch this match for a list, and I can't wait to rewatch it because I remember loving it. Then you watch it, you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know, so many times. My other honorable mention, it gets a half point because it could never make the list because it's not a great match. It would never make a match list. But if this list was my favorite or the best Sting moments from TNA, it might make the list for me. And this is his empty arena match with Kurt Angle.
this is on my honorable mentions too.
Yeah, it's because it's only like 5 seconds long before the involvement of Kevin Nash and everybody else.
It's very short.
So we can't really make a match list. But the promo afterwards and like the involvement, the just the pure anger you see from Sting through it, it's one of my favorite Sting moments in TNA.
It is very different from what we got from Sting throughout the majority of his career, which is another reason why I put it on my honorable mentions, because I wanted my honorable mentions to be matches that people might not think about in terms of the best Sting matches. And you're right, it's not the best match, but it is different. And I think it's worth going out of your way to watch just so that you can see what Sting was capable of when it comes to cinematic stuff and things where he was allowed to be a bit more creative. Plus, Kurt Angle takes a hellacious bump off the stands to the floor. It's gross. It's gross, that bump, and how sick it sounds when he hits the floor. And it's a quick watch. So even if you haven't got a lot of time, it's a real breezy watch. So yeah, I would put that one on there. You said you had another one, Mike?
No, those are my 1.5.
Tyler, did you have any other ones you wanted to throw in there?
Not really. I did really enjoy any time that Sting and Flair got in a ring together, just the nostalgia kicking in. I know they had that fun match where Flair hurt himself on the superplex. Again, wouldn't make a list for me, but just
is that the one from 2011? Right,
I believe
before Bound
so.
for Glory.
I believe so.
I did go back and watch that one, and
it's not bad.
It's better than the last Nitro.
Yeah, that's it. 100%. They got to kind of right that wrong, and Sting and Flair are just fun. Even like the little interactions they would have, like with Flair running interference in a match or something. Like, I just really enjoyed that they got to do that one last time.
If you want to watch a couple of old guys just kind of go out there and do their thing, and you watch it and go, okay, they're not as fast as they used to be, they're not as crisp as they used to be, but you know what?
If you watch it with the right eyes on it, exactly. If you have your expectations set properly, it's very fun to go back and watch.
Yeah, you can tell it's two guys out there that really love each other.
Yeah,
trying to just like, all right, let's see if we can do this one last time. They can't, but they're really trying. They're really trying.
I'm pushing.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, you're in the Vince Russo camp, are you?
Give me Flair and Sting one more time, baby. No, I do not want to see it. I would take a 6-man with Flair involved, though. I wouldn't be opposed to that. 6-man tag. I wouldn't be opposed.
I hate you so much. Correct me if I'm wrong. We all remember the incident and the horrendousness that was Jeff Hardy and Sting at Victory Road. But did they not have an actual good match at some point?
And my final honorable mention.
And was it on Impact?
It was the main event of March 3rd, 2011. Literally, I believe either the show before or 2 shows before the match at Victory Road, because the build up to this was during a time in which Sting was renegotiating his contract, and they essentially did a parody of WWE's vignettes that they were doing earlier in the year for WrestleMania, where everyone assumed that it was Sting coming in to take on the Undertaker. And then when the contract signing fell through, they just said, fuck it, do Triple H. So they started parodying that by doing 3/3/11, which was March 3rd, 2011. And on that date, they did a whole story leading up to it saying that Jeff Hardy is going to defend his TNA championship, but it's going to be against a mystery opponent. And then it was Sting. And they have a great match. It's so funny because this match makes no sense whatsoever. They were in North Carolina. They were in fucking Jeff Hardy country. Now, keep in mind, Jeff Hardy is being portrayed. Jeff Hardy is in the Antichrist of wrestling phase right now. So he's trying to be a big heel. Sting still gets a great pop. They still love him in it. The match is solid. So here's the whole reason I put this on this list. Is it anything spectacular? No. But I feel like fans only remember the Jeff Hardy Sting match from Victory Road, and they deserve if you're fans of those two men, you deserve it, and they deserve it for you to go back and watch this match, because it's a pretty darn good little match. Like I said, not spectacular, but you know what? A pretty darn good television pay-per-view or television main event. Pardon me.
I almost feel like it wouldn't be a bad idea on AEW's part, while Sting is, on his way out, to give Jeff Hardy a redemption match. Now it might suck, but it might suck. But
you know what? Just pay Scott D'Amore and just air that match again on AEW TV. Yeah. Like, here's the good stuff.
As we come to the end of the list and the end of the show here, I have one last question I want to ask you guys. As we come to the end of Sting's career also, have any of you guys got to see Sting work live before?
No. I have not.
Yes. I was at Forbidden Door this year.
That was my second time. I got to see Sting work live twice. I saw him at Forbidden Door this year, which was fun. And I was very happy. Like, that was one of the highlights for me, to get to see Sting work one more time. And I got to see him work at WCW Mayhem 1999 against Bret Hart.
That's awesome, man. I actually remember saying that, look, if nothing else, I get to walk away saying I got to watch Sting wrestle, which is pretty cool.
And I will never be able to say that. And that sucks. Yeah.
Well, unless you make a road trip.
That's about to say, there's still time, man. I'm sure we could get tickets to wherever Revolution is, and we can go watch.
I'm judging by the pictures that Mike and I were talking about earlier. You probably could get tickets for it. Yes. Adam, thank you so much for coming on and joining us as always. It's always a pleasure to have you. Any final words, gentlemen?
Thank you for putting up with me for 2 hours.
Yes. We always go Broadway with we're gonna stop calling you Coke Zero. We're gonna start calling you Broadway every time. It's our own fault. You're too fun. You're too fun.
I'm so sorry for anybody who looked at the runtime for this episode and went, "Fuck, they got Adam on."
Fucking again. Broadway's back.
No, 100%. I'm getting that text from from Matthew Sookram. He'd be like, "Fuck, 2 hours, really?
Rein him in." Fucking rein him in, buddy. Get the hook. Get the hook.
Well, it's out there. You have been invited back. We can't wait to have you back in a few weeks. Tyler, you alluded last week that you'll have a Sting list of your own coming up.
Yeah, I don't know what it is yet. Sure, we can honor Sting some more, I think. And I don't know if you still want to do a type of Sting list for yourself. We can do the month of Sting for all I care.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's your list next week, so we'll see what you have to offer, and then I'll decide if I have to beat that or not. We'll see.
All right. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I don't even know what I'm going to do for lunch tomorrow, let alone what I'm going to do for the show next week. It's a miracle that we even put this thing out.
With that said,
take us home, my friend.
Gentlemen? On behalf of a fun career in TNA, Sting, man, no. He gave us.
Say it right.
I'm not saying it.
Say it right.
I will not abuse my microphone. On behalf of the man called Sting, I hate you. We have been counted out. Say cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.